trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoops got rhythm, my sticks got soul. I'm the pilot of the party. On a roll, TV remotes a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 75. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Below, we fly that flow. Below, grab that gap. No time to nap. No time to nap. Hit that roll. Funk and control. Funk and control. Bounce that wall. Bounce that all. We fly it all. Funk it all. We fly it all. Funky and free, we fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoops got rhythm, my sticks got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all.
What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to the show. It's Whoop Wednesday, and we're gonna be talking about the Meteor75 O4, not Meteor75 Pro O4. Meteor75 O4. For the last time, it's gonna get pulled apart here. This O4 is gonna get moved to another rig. Shout out to Betaflight for sending over a Meteor 75 Pro that I dropped one of my O4 lights into. It came in the Pro frame, and we're going to talk about how it flew with this setup. It's pretty damn good. And the changes that I've made to make it sort of the best that it can be. Nothing wrong with the way that it shows up. I did one or two live streams about the Meteor 75 Pro O4. But in the process of doing some upgrades to it, I moved it to the smaller, lighter frame, swapped motors, of course swapped propellers because this frame is a little bit smaller, and it really came alive. And this setup is kind of insane, especially for a 1S build, right? If you're limited to 1S, this is absolutely as good as it gets. This is better than the way that it comes from the Pro. So, like, if you can handle frame, motors, and propellers, if you've got a Meteor 75 O4 and you can handle swapping those three things, you can have something that flies significantly better, that's also significantly lighter and gets better runtime as well. So you can kind of get the best of everything: more power, better power to weight ratio, more runtime, and more agility. You could maybe argue that on the Meteor 75 Pro heavier setup, that it's better in the wind, but I actually don't think so. I think that this setup is better across the board. Thanks in large part to these motors. These GetRC 1002 25,000 kV motors are just brilliant. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. That's the flight footage that we were watching. Though that was the very last battery that I flew on this setup, and then I landed on myself and had dead air for hopefully not too long, and then I played the second to the last battery. So yeah, there you go. I'm going to tell you about the other upgrades too. The ORT Micro V up here, and the different way that I built this a little bit differently than how Betaflight recommends. If you want to dive into that, just pull up that live stream. The live stream where I built the thing is your best kind of resource for the slight changes that I made to it. It's nothing crazy. I used a different wiring harness, and I rotated the boards a little bit differently. Somebody's doing laundry, and it's it's coming down here for some reason. I'm about to have an allergy attack. Can't wait for that. So yeah, we'll talk about the whole thing, and then I'll tear it down. I'm not gonna tear it down tonight, but I just wanted to revisit this one last time and talk about sort of its final form before moving these motors on into something else, moving this O4 on into something else. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this AIO. I think it's just a Betaflight cross AIO, which I have a couple of. But yeah, it might end up in a giveaway. It might end up getting built into something else. We'll see. But yeah, shout out to Betaflight for sending over the base of this thing to kind of. We're also going to talk about the 1102 22,000s that they sent, which for some reason make more power than all of the other Betaflight 1102 22,000s that I've gotten. They must have changed something on these motors, because these ones that they sent with this rig make significantly more power. I guess I don't need to talk about it anymore. That's pretty much it. But yeah, there you go. In the chat, Jamie Flies FPV was first. You Can FPV was next. Nyafu, McShaky, Fizz, Levster, Blitz, Capital C, Spaceman Spiff, Pacific North Whoop, Frank Nicholas, McMucus, Matthew Wegner, Newborn, Douglas 6, Brad McManus is in the house. What's up, brother? Kevin Sumner, Gusto, You Can FPV again, Off Axis. I shoved a Q-tip a little too far into my ear today, and now I'm in hell. Nyafu, Rays, Off Axis. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Patreon helps me out the most. Etsy store has lots of fun things. A lot of affiliate links over there, of course. Change your bookmarks to affiliate links so you don't need to remember to use them. Fiverr page if you want to work one-on-one with me, if you really want to learn fast. Yeah, lots of good stuff. Head on over there. Jump onto Patreon, though. Patreon's the way to go. $3 a month for general admission tier, but for $5 a month, you can get entered into the Tiny Whoop and Toothpick giveaways every first Monday of the month. You don't have to be on the live stream. Magically, a box, not a box, but a padded envelope with $30, $40, $50, $60 worth of stuff will show up at your door. There's 3 different tiers. There's 3 different giveaways that we do. 5 a month, 10 a month, and now 15 a month. The 5-inch tier, I dropped from 20 down to 15 a month in hopes of encouraging somebody, more than just one person, to jump onto that tier. So yeah, lots of ways that you can support me. This is a totally crowdfunded thing that we've got going on here. This way, you know, I'm not like relying on some manufacturer to send me their stuff and like softballing reviews. If somebody sends me something, they know damn well that I'm going to give it an honest review. And if it sucks, I'm going to tell you that it sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If it's great, I'm going to tell you it's great. But, you know, when it's crowdfunded like this is something I stole from Joshua, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, you don't have to worry about like, yeah, the feedback that I'm giving you being slanted in any way. Cool. All right, let me just start playing through the flight footage from this thing, and I'll get caught up on chat at the same time. So these first two batteries, well, backstory. So Betaflight sent this over as the only thing that they make is the Meteor75 Pro O4. When they say Meteor75 Pro, what they mean is this specific frame. This frame has not changed. This has been around a long time. This is... They should call this the Meteor 80 because 65, 75, that refers to the motor-to-motor distance here. This frame is not 75 millimeters motor-to-motor like the 1.6-inch prop frames, like the Air 75 V2 frame that this thing is now on. But it's close to 75. What they did with their Pro frames, the Meteor 65 Pro and the Meteor 75 Pro, is they made the propellers slightly bigger, and in the process of doing that, normally what you would need to do is push the ducts out, and they did. They pushed the ducts out a little bit, thus this distance not being truly 75 and being closer to 80, but they didn't move the ducts out all the, like, as much as they would normally need to for the increase in prop size. They only moved the ducts out a little bit. And then, so because of that, you can't run a normal AIO in these. You have to run an AIO that's cut down in the corners. So you can't run an AIO that looks like a perfect square in the Meteor 65 Pro and the Meteor 75 Pro. You have to run either like the Betaflight Cross AIO that is like this, right? No, it's like this, or like the Module 6 2024 AIO that instead of being a diamond like this, it's actually like that, right? So it's cut down a little bit. And so yeah, that's the Meteor 75 Pro frame. In the process of doing that, making the props... So the propellers that it runs are 1.8 inch. Normal 75 millimeter frames run 1.6 inch propellers. So they went to a slightly bigger propeller. Frame got a little bit bigger. This frame is actually really, really, really nice. The only problem with it is it's real heavy. This is like the heaviest of all the Tiny Whoop frames, because it's kind of the biggest until you get to a 2-inch frame. But yeah, this is a really beefy frame. I like that from the standpoint of it being really durable. I don't like it from the standpoint of it being heavy, and it is 1S only. You cannot put a 2S battery in this unless you cut this battery bay out and then try to do some silly rubber band setup, which I personally don't like. Some people are totally fine with it, but I want the battery to be held in plastic, exactly where it's supposed to be, not moving around, no rubber band to get like gashed or torn when I flat bottom this thing from crashing it really hard. And so this is like the heaviest and biggest frame for 1S. And the long and short of it is that on 1S, it's arguably too much. With the Betaflight 1102 22,000 kV motors, which are... God damn it, YouTube. Hold on. Oh my God. I don't even know who to blame it on anymore. I don't know who to blame it on, Canon or YouTube. Either one of them are just steaming piles of asshole. Come on back, you donkey. Come on, you idiot. There we go. All right, there we go. So yeah, these Betafpv 1102 22,000 kV motors, they are like the exact right motors for this frame. And the performance is really, really good. It's really, really good. It's not great. Doing these mods that I'm going to tell you about made this thing great. But this is legitimately really, really good. These 1102 motors are absolutely awesome. These ones that they sent on this, which I'm assuming are just like the current generation of these 1102 22,000s, outperform all of the previous 1102 22,000s. This is the original ones that were all black, and then the current generation, which are either this silver and blue or black and red. I have bought and or received quite a few of these 1102 motors over the last like 4 years. And these ones that came on this Meteor75 Pro 04 are just more powerful. And like, I noticed this right away when I put this thing up in the air, when I first got it. I've built so many setups with this frame and these motors. I built an identical setup with Walksnail, and Walksnail is 1 gram lighter than 04 Lite. And so like, I knew what to expect when I put this thing up in the air, and it was not what I expected. It had more power and pretty much the same runtime. And I was a little confused by that. And then just like a few days ago, I bolted these onto something. I don't remember what I put these on, but I spun them up. You know what? No, I didn't put them on that. I forget what I put them on, but I put them on the Walksnail rig, actually. Yeah, I put them on the Walksnail rig with the red and black versions of these motors that are like a year or two old. Same motor, and these guys are turning 3,000 more RPM with the propellers on. So there's something about this new generation of Betafpv 1102 22,000 that is just making more power. So that's tough because, like, there's no way. If you go out and buy a set of these Betafpv 1102s from like race day quads, there's no telling if you're going to get this one that's magically performing better but looks identical to the ones that they've been selling, or if it's been sitting on their shelf for a year. So yeah, I guess if you're desperate to get whatever this new generation of 1102 is that's performing better, I guess you would need to order direct from Betafpv, because like they're gonna, they sell direct, but then they ship to all these manufacturers, so they're gonna just ship everything out, and then in theory, their stock is the newest stock or whatever. And so yeah, super impressed by these, even more impressed by these new 1102s. They were really good, but now these are even better. They are not as good as the Get Bar C 1002 25,000s, though, but we're getting there. So, yeah, out of the box, this thing was really, really good for carrying around all the extra weight of 04 Lite. Also, for carrying around Betafpv's wacky canopy with soft-mounted... Let me see if I can show you. Am I on it? Oh, there it is. There, let's see if you can see it. There, you can see it. See that camera moving around in there? There you go. Now you can see it. Yeah, this canopy setup is the heaviest of all the canopy setups for this, because it's the outer shell of the canopy, and then it's a plastic carrier around the camera itself, and then it's 4 little rubber grommets, and then another bracket here on the rubber grommet. So this is like the most complicated and heavy canopy setup, but it's got soft mounting, which allows you to use gyro flow. I don't think you should use gyro flow because the 04 Lite image is not like super high quality. It's pretty damn high quality. But this is a tiny little censored camera and yada yada yada. But yeah, with all this extra weight and whatnot, I was pretty sure that out of the box it wasn't gonna fly as good as the walk snail version that I had on pretty much the same setup, but it did, and that was really cool. So Meteor75 Pro 04 out of the box is awesome. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But if you want to take it to another, and so the mod you're going to want to make is an antenna. ORT Micro V is absolutely perfect. You're going to put a tiny little dot of E6000 right here on the corner. There you go. Just to hold this antenna in place. I've crashed it hard enough to kind of break it off. I also kind of half-assed it. When you do this, put the blob there and then put a little blob that goes around the antenna. So just keep going around the antenna with it. Once the E6000 cures, it'll be like a little loop that goes around there, and then you won't have it let go here. But do something to keep this antenna from flopping around. This little tiny dot of E6000 lasted a while, longer than it should have. But then when I really started crashing this thing, it finally ripped the antenna off. But yeah, do something to hold that antenna down. That's really the main mod. Like, if you were to just do that, you'd have a really fun to fly 1S 1.8 inch prop setup. Oh, that's the other big upgrade. The other big upgrade is going to be to throw the propellers that it comes with in the river, and get the HQ ultralight props onto it. One of the biggest problems with Betaflight doing these weird frames with different prop sizes is that they've forced the propeller manufacturers to make a 1.4 inch prop and a 1.8 inch prop, as opposed to the standard 1.2 and 1.6. And so on these Pro frames, your prop selection is super limited. So unfortunately, in the 1.8 inch props, all of the Gemfan props are extremely heavy, fragile, and not very well balanced out of the box. Out of the bag, rather. The HQ ultralights are a huge upgrade. HQ has a biblade and a tri-blade. They're both really good. They do suffer from the same problem that all of the HQ ultralight props have, which is that they're fragile. They break at the hub all the time. You can make that situation a little bit better by getting yourself a pin vise with a 1.46 millimeter drill bit from my Etsy store. Basically what you're going to do with that is drill the inner hole of the propeller out a little bit. I think one of the problems is that the propeller sits, like, you have to mash it down on the motor shaft so hard that the hub of the propeller is being pushed outwards all the time. And so, and that puts, like, you can see them, these little, like, stress cracks start to form as you fly the propellers more. And then, you know, the fourth or sixth or seventh or fifth crash, a propeller just vanishes. It just blows up at the hub and it just disappears. Hopefully you're somewhere recoverable, because you can't take off at that point. And so this is one of the main fatal flaws of the 1.8 inch propeller, is that the only good prop option is a very fragile propeller. And so make sure you don't fly that thing anywhere unrecoverable, especially if there's any chance that you're going to crash. If you never crash it, you'll probably get away with it, but as soon as you're flying somewhere unrecoverable, you're going to smack into something, and that's going to be the moment that the propeller explodes, right? So you just can't fly it unrecoverable on the 1.8 inch propeller setup. That right there is the main reason that I move pretty much everything off of that size, or if I have like a 1.6 inch build and I become curious about that or obsessed with testing every possible iteration of it, I'll put it into that bigger frame, and then I'll get frustrated with how often the propellers explode, and then I'll take it back out of that. I don't have... I have used this Meteor 75 Pro frame on pretty much every single 1S outdoor setup I've ever built throughout the testing process, and then I have always taken it back off of this. I do not have a single rig that I have ever left on this 1.8 inch prop size, because for me personally, with how often I crash and how hard I crash, it's just unrealistic. It just doesn't work. The props explode, walk of shame. At some point, I'm going to get screwed. It's going to be on a neighbor's rooftop, and then it's going to rain. It's going to be on the top of a building in downtown Atlanta, God knows where. But I personally can't have a setup where every 4 to 10 crashes, a propeller is going to disappear, and I'm not going to be able to take the thing back off. That for me personally is a deal breaker. So yeah, keep that in mind. That lands us here. This is the brand new Betaflight Air 75 V2 frame. This is the lightest of the 75 millimeter frames. It feels really stiff. This frame is pretty impressive, and it also has the skinniest ducts here. If you compare this to the Meteor 75 Pro, you'll notice these ducts are a lot thicker here, but these aren't that thick. You want a thick bitch. Look at this Mobula 7 V3. This is a big old thick duct surround. The reason why that matters is that when you're flying slowly forward, these ducts here on the Mobula 7 V3, the V4 is very similar. It's going to be slow. And like, you could argue that that's kind of what we want from a tiny whoop, right? What I actually really like about the tall ducts is that when you corner flat, there's a lot of wind resistance, and so it just goes. It goes wherever you point it, and I really do like that. It also offers a little bit more prop protection when you get into hard crashes. It's going to push the duct into the propeller. But on the flip side of that, if you want something that's a little bit more slippery, this frame is going to do that with this real thin little propeller surround here. Luckily, with these the GEP-RC 1002s, the propeller is pretty much perfectly centered in there. So when you do get into a crash, the duct pushes into the prop, and it can, the blade of the prop can slip underneath if it hits hard enough, but it's pretty well centered in here. And so this setup actually works really, really well. So moving this down to a 1.6 inch propeller on a regular 75 millimeter motor-to-motor frame here, it allows you to run either the HQ Ultralight here, which this just happens to be the last propeller that I put on this in testing. If I was going to leave this thing together, the prop I would put, and of course HQ has the bi-blades here and the tri-blades in their ultralight, and they're great. The flight performance is better than the Gemfan props. The durability, though, is not. If I were to keep this together, I would move this over to the Gemfan 1610. That is a bi-blade propeller that performs awesome. It's super well balanced. It's super durable. It's just like the propeller to go with on an outdoor 1.6 inch rig. I have them on pretty much all of my 1.6 inch builds. Because yeah, they just last. You just keep crashing into stuff, and they're a little bit more pitchy than these HQ Ultralights, so they make a little bit more power. They are significantly heavier, so you don't get the response time that you get with these guys. But other than that one thing, like they're the way to go. And the last part of the puzzle here, and the most important part of the puzzle, is the GEP-RC 1002 25,000 kV motor. This is hands down the best 1.6 inch prop motor available, regardless if you're doing a lightweight analog build or a heavier digital build. This motor is stupid. It's just incredible. At full throttle, it gives you a big old burst of power, but then when you cruise it around, it's super efficient. And so once I got this set up on this rig, well, here is the second or third. I'm going to play through a couple of flight files here. Here is like, all right, so here is the first battery when I put it onto this frame with this motor. And as you can see, the jello situation is ridiculous, which is super weird because out of the box on the bigger frame with the slightly bigger lower kV motors, it did not have this problem at all. There were no weird filters that I could see in there. But yeah, when I put it into this lighter frame with the lighter motors and the smaller propellers, all of a sudden I had massive jello problems. Very weird, mainly around like the hover point. And so this now, so I did a quick log and I sent it to Brandon's Baked Beans, one of our longtime just absolute ninjas around here, who does black box tuning. And he saw exactly where that vibration was happening. He said, here, try dropping a notch filter, and I'm going to give you that notch filter in case you do this same setup. He said, hey, try dropping this notch filter on there. I told him, I was like, look, I am 99% sure this problem is the camera itself. The camera itself being on a soft mount, when you hit the resonant frequency of that soft mount, it's going to shake like crazy like that. And there seems to be something about this frame and motor and prop combo that was like vibrating at that exact frequency that was making the camera shake all over the damn place. And so Brandon gave me this notch filter, what that oscillation was, and this is the result. Just one change, that's it. Just one notch filter dropped onto that exact number there, and now all of a sudden, essentially what was happening, in my opinion, is that the camera would get into this oscillation, and then it would like feed back into itself, and then the quad would try to fight against that. So the camera is on its soft mount and it's starting to vibrate, and then the quad is trying to, when the camera vibrates up, the quad, the gyro on the whoop feels that and it tries to push forward. Well, then the camera vibrates down and then the whoop tries to push back. So the whoop is feeding back into the camera's vibration, but then once that notch filter was there, basically telling the PID loop to ignore that wobbling, then the quad was not pushing back against the camera wobble. And so the camera was probably only vibrating a little bit until the whoop underneath it was pushing to try to fix that. And then it was pushing the camera even farther, right? So once there was a filter there to tell the quad to stop vibrating, the camera was still shaking a little bit, but not enough for us to be able to see. And now this is today. This is me just flying this thing around today. Hold on. Before we get to this, though, I flew this thing at this Airbnb that Maggie was doing a little writing retreat at. One of the big complaints that people have about this canopy with the soft mounting is that they get a lot of jello. That is a pretty normal thing for when you soft mount a camera. When you soft mount a camera, that soft mounting setup, exactly like what I was just talking about. This is also after that notch filter, by the way. That soft mounted camera is going to have a resonant frequency. Everything does. Everything has a frequency that it will vibrate at. And jello is typically caused by that camera sitting there and just shaking around within its resonant frequency. It did not seem to do it out of the box. I don't know if there was some notch filter that they had on there buried in the CLI or something like that. I did not see it in the filters tab. But yeah, something about the stock setup was fine. But in this frame with these motors, with these props, you're going to have to do a little something to get that out. But as you can see here, it is good to go. Like, this is Rocksteady is not turned on, but we don't have any jello whatsoever. I did run Rocksteady at some point and it did work, which was pretty cool. But I'm not a fan of cropping in on the O4 Lite image at all. I would rather leave it as wide as possible and get as many of the pixels as we can, because it is a tiny little sensor camera. And so, yeah, we want to try to maintain as much resolution as we can get. But yeah, flying around here at the lake, I can't believe how good this looks. This was like, I did not expect this much out of this. This is kind of wild. The O4 Lite is just ridiculously good. This is nuts. But yeah, as you can see, all different throttle openings. Like, I'm mainly cruising slow, but still, like, I'm now raising elevation, so this is like probably 50-60% throttle, and no jello at all. Not a cloud in the sky either, and the sun is right there, right? So it's not like, this isn't sunset, this isn't sunrise, this is like middle of the day, full sun, no clouds whatsoever. Yeah, real impressive. Real impressive. And so now we get into today, which... Oh, nope, that ain't it. Where is it? What? Where'd it go? Ah, here we go. So that brings us into today. And yeah, there we go. So today, since it was last couple of batteries with it, I just flew it really hard. And I just absolutely railed this thing around the front yard. And so that's going to be the next 4 batteries that you watch here. 3 good batteries. 4th battery I threw in the garbage after I flew it because it was just a mess. It sagged like crazy. The battery must have been hurt because all 4 of them came right off the charger, and this one was just awful. So it's now gone. But yeah, these first 3 batteries are what you can expect from this thing in terms of like flight performance and runtime. Runtime is basically going to be, if you push it really hard, 1 minute and 50 seconds. If you fly a little bit more normal, you can easily get to 2 minutes, 2 minutes 10. I even saw 2 minutes and 20. The grass is lava because of all the leaves right now, but I think I did manage to get the leaves off of it and get it back up in the air, yeah. Although, I think this was the battery where, even after I shook it off like this, I think it's still carrying a leaf around, because it was flying a little bit weird, and then I showed it at the end of the battery. You'll see it at some point here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one. I'm pretty sure in a second you're going to see the leaf fall off of this thing, because this is me being like, why is it flying so weird? There it is. Yeah, there's the leaf here that just fell off the front. So, and now all of a sudden it's flying a lot better. And yeah, there's me showing you the leaf. So yeah, this was a runtime looking like 2 minutes or so. And now this and the next battery, I was flying just like hard. With a tiny whoop, you know, it should be a little bit of a different flight style. I'm really starting to realize that now that I've got this 2-inch baby turtle and I'm just shredding this thing up and down the street. you know, with a tiny whoop, and I mean, like, you wouldn't do this anyway, right? The whoop frame adds a good amount of wind resistance. So, like, what you're not going to do, what you shouldn't do with a tiny whoop and a whoop frame like this, is fly it like this. Like, don't just put the nose all the way down and fly it like this. You're not going to do that because it'll just be looking straight at the ground. But, like, that's not the flying this is for. You fly this at, like, the same, you know, pitch forward that you fly all of your other stuff, and it's a little bit slower. And that's the point. The prop guards make it slower. They give you more float. They allow you to bump into stuff, and it makes it more accurate. A whoop setup is for flying accurately and slowly, and like not the name of the game is not just like race up and down the street as fast as you possibly can, hurl it over that 50-foot tall tree. Like, that is not what these are really for. You can still certainly do all of the inverted stuff and inverted yaw spins if you want to make people watching your videos vomit, and all that nonsense. But it's not for going really fast. It's for this stuff here. It's for being able to drop down in the garden and shoot a gap that's this big over and over and over and over again accurately, because when you turn the thing, it goes like a razor blade. That's what this is for. It's going to make the front of your house and the back of your house feel a lot bigger. That's the point. This open prop stuff is for covering a lot of ground and making spaces feel smaller, actually, because they're so fast and because they have all this momentum and they're really aerodynamic. And so, yeah, the way that you fly a tiny whoop is that, like, you're a mosquito and your world is absolutely gigantic and you can shoot tiny little gaps. If you try to fly this thing up and down the street real fast, throwing it up over trees and stuff, you're not going to like it. That goes for all whoops. It's a bit of a different flying style. So yeah, keep that in mind. Slowing yourself down and flying these things like that, you're going to have so much more fun. It is a little bit of an adjustment, though, especially like if you're used to flying open prop stuff. I forgot to look at the runtime of that last battery, but I think it was 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was around 2 minutes and 10. You can see there, after I whipped around, it did slide backwards for a half decent amount of time. This frame with these thin little ducts, it will do that. It will do that little bit of slidiness, which is pretty fun. Again, big tree. Look, it just doesn't have the momentum. Like, I didn't give it much of a throw, but still, like, it's not meant to throw over that next tree. It's meant to dive down the back of that tree and then jump out and over. This is the tiny whoop way. You can bump into stuff, though, right? Like, you can bump into shit and the motors don't stall out and you just keep flying. And it's incredibly fun. Like, you can just be so reckless with these in a whoop frame. Speaking of being reckless, in terms of, like, durability, you should not, with one of these, like, tiny whoopish builds, you should not be having, like, those massive crashes onto, like, concrete and stuff that can break these things. You should be having, like, smaller crashes into, like, the tree from 2 inches away, into your garden, stuff like that. Again, you're flying, when you fly the tiny whoops, you're flying them slower and more accurately, and you're flying them smaller. And so you shouldn't be having those. If you're breaking lots and lots of tiny whoops, you're flying them a little bit too big, a little bit too fast, in my opinion. Your crashes should be smaller because you should be closer to stuff and going not quite as fast, right? Like, if you're setting your tiny whoops at like 40 or 50 degrees of up tilt, to me, you're doing it wrong. That's not what they're for. You should be flying something open propped. You can fly something open propped at like 20, 25 degrees and get that speed. If that speed is what you want, do it with the right tool. A tiny whoop at 40, 50, 60 degrees up tilt unless you're racing, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, it's all plastic, right? Like, you're gonna break something. If you're flying that fast, you're gonna be breaking stuff. This has been super durable. I was really skeptical about this canopy, but it's been plenty durable. That was the battery that I threw in the garbage. So that runtime was only 1 minute and 40 seconds, but again, that battery was junk. So there it is. That's it, my friends. There's a bunch of batteries. I want to show you that notch filter, though. That really, really, really helped. I have absolutely no idea why it did not need that the way that it came out of the box. I'm assuming, though, that they've got some sort of filtering going on that took care of it. And when I moved this thing over, the tune, their factory tune, did not really work all that well. So I wiped it out and tuned it from scratch. And it needed this here notch filter that Brandon was cool enough to help me out with. Let me actually show you the log. Brandon sent me a couple of images here. And so yeah, the other dead giveaway that it was the camera, I forgot to mention this. The dead giveaway that it was the camera vibrating in the mount is that it was only happening on the pitch axis. And that's the axis that this little canopy setup has the most movement, is on that pitch axis. And I could see that in the footage. Like, when I was flying it, I could see that it was wobbling up and down on only the pitch axis. So Brandon's response was, yeah, that's bad. Insane fast oscillations on pitch axis. So yeah, you can see it here. And so we've got roll, we've got pitch, and then we've got yaw. And so very obviously, on the pitch axis, it's just going ham. The PIDs are fighting against that movement from the camera, and trying to fix an unfixable thing, right? Like, the camera is going to move in there. That's why it's soft mounted. That is unfixable. The quad doesn't know that. The only way to tell it that is to put this notch filter on it. And so, what happened here? Get out of there. And so Brandon says it's resonance that's not being filtered out at around 125 hertz. 125 hertz is not going to get filtered because we don't typically filter anything below 200 hertz, because below 200 hertz is where the natural movement of the quad occurs. So you typically do not want to filter anything down below 200 hertz. In this case, we have to, but we don't want to let, like, the dynamic filter do it, because it's going to move around, which is why we want to drop a notch filter. You saw that it was just a vertical stripe. It's just a vertical band. The center of the band is 125, and then it goes a little bit below and a little bit above that. And so a dynamic filter is not what we want for that. When you see a band that's diagonal like this, that's what the dynamic filters are going to do really good to catch. That's what we use RPM filtering for. That's pretty much the motors ramping up and down. But yeah, letting a dynamic filter go down below 200 hertz is, I mean, sometimes you have to do it, but if you can put a notch filter on, like a tight little notch filter like what we did here, it'll just kind of work perfectly. So, Brandon says, if the build is as clean as it can be, we talked a little bit about, like, is there an antenna that's vibrating? Is there something pushed up against the AIO where the gyro is on? A couple different options. No, good to go. If the build is as clean as it can be, then you might as well disable the dynamic notch altogether and just use a static gyro notch with the center of 148 hertz and a cutoff of 125. So the center is going to be 148. The low cutoff is going to be 125, and so that's a 24 hertz gap here. And then the way that it works is it's going to add 24 hertz up on top. So what there's actually going to be, and what there is this is not how it looks in Betaflight, which you're going to see in a second. But what we've done here is we've put a notch filter from 125 all the way up to 173. Yeah, 172? 170-ish. So from 125 to 170-ish, we've got just a static notch filter. And what we're basically saying to the PID loop is like, yo, in this little band, don't do anything. Don't fight against any vibrations that are happening in this band. We are filtering out the vibrations from the gyro that are occurring in that band before they get into the PID loop, so that the PID loop doesn't then push back against it. That's why Brandon had me do a gyro notch rather than a D-term notch. If it was a problem on board, if it was not a physical vibration on the, well, no. If it was a frame resonance, for example, the frame resonance would be feeding, the D term would be feeding back into the frame resonance, and we would need a D term notch filter. But in this case, since it was the camera, we used the gyro notch so that the PID loop doesn't even see it, right? The PID loop doesn't even get to see the vibration that's going on from this camera wobbling all around, and so the PID loop doesn't have to react to it. The way that Betaflight basically works is that the gyro itself pushes its data into the gyro filters. That filtered data goes into the PID loop. The PID loop tries to make it as smooth as possible, kinda, not necessarily. If you have a lot of D-gain, it can actually amplify some of the vibrations. And then out of the PID loop, it goes into the D-term filtering. And then the D-term filtering quiets anything down that the PID loop itself may have like kind of excited and amplified. And then out of the D-term filter, it goes basically to the motors, the ESC and the motors. And so, yeah, what that's going to look like in Betaflight is this. So, oh wow, that accelerometer is not calibrated at all. Calibrate, you bastard! What? Why are you not? You gotta calibrate better than that, bro. What are you doing? Well, whatever. I'm pulling it apart. So what that's going to look like is here, PID... Well, okay. So here's the tune that I ended up with. I could probably push this a little bit farther, but it flew great the way that it was here. These motors make a lot of power, so you don't need mega PID gains to get this thing absolutely dialed. But yeah, this is where the tune ended up. Zoom on it a little bit for you, in case you care. Don't copy people's tunes. It's so easy to tune nowadays. Just do your own custom tunes. There's my rates. I ended up with a little bit of throttle expo, but not a ton. And so here are the filters. I turned off the dynamic gyro low pass 1, but I did leave the gyro low pass 2 on. There's very little delay on this gyro low pass 2 filter. I also left the dynamic notch filter on. Brandon had told me to turn this off all the way. I usually err in favor of a little bit more filtering than a little bit less. So yeah, I could have totally turned this off. But this right here, this is where all the magic was. This gyro notch filter, center frequency 148, cutoff 125. This completely fixed that jello problem. If you're having a jello problem with this canopy, you should try that. You should try that gyro notch filter. Center at 148, cutoff frequency 125, because this camera in this canopy with these rubber grommets, if you take anything, this water, you just listened to this water bottle's resonant frequency. I hit the metal, and then the metal I excited the metal, and then it started vibrating, and it kept vibrating until, well, whatever. But yeah, everything has a resonant frequency. I'm dying. I've not been drinking enough water lately. Yeah, everything has a resonant frequency. This pair of tweezers, they're vibrating at their resonant frequency. This canopy with this camera on rubber grommets is going to have a resonant frequency. And they're all going to have that same resonant frequency, but temperature will change that a little bit. Whatever that day was that I took that black box log, whatever temperature it was outside, these rubber grommets were at a specific durometer at that temperature. Now that it's colder, that rubber is going to be a little bit harder, and that resonant frequency is probably going to go up a little bit. In the middle of the summer, where it's real hot, the rubber is going to be a little bit looser, and that resonant frequency might move down a little bit. So try that gyro notch filter, because it's not going to hurt anything if you're having jello issues with this canopy. And yeah, that might help. I am confused as to why on the bigger frame with the 1102s, it did not have this issue. The only thing I can think of is that with the bigger, heavier frame, it was having to... What's interesting is that it was on a bigger propeller, right? It was on a 1.8 inch prop instead of a 1.6 inch prop. And so on the bigger propeller, you would think that it would be turning lower RPM to make the same amount of thrust, but then it was heavier. It was a heavier motor, a heavier frame, and so that's going to require a higher RPM. This is why I'm confused. I wouldn't think that the RPM difference would be that much between that 1.8 inch setup and this 1.6 inch setup because of that offset. Bigger propeller, lower RPM, heavier, higher RPM, right? But there's something going on there with that stock setup where it did not need this notch filter. Also keep in mind, this is a fresh build. This was a brand new set of these motors that it came with, no crashes through them, and then these GEP RC motors are relatively fresh, but they have been crashed a bunch. I've probably got 40 or 50 batteries on these GEP RC motors, and that could be a part of the problem as well. These GEP RC motors might be the shafts might be starting to wobble a little bit, and that's dumping enough vibrations into the camera mount to then get it to get excited and start bouncing around. So could be a number of different things, but I'm blown away that out of the box it didn't have this issue. If you feel like if you bought one of these Meteor75 O4s and you feel like out of the box it had no jello, but now all of a sudden it does, and you're 20, 30, 50, 100 batteries in, let me know, because that will probably mean that it was caused from the crashes. And you can probably do this or something similar to this and get rid of some, if not all, of that jello. Anything else that I can show you here in Betaflight that's interesting with it? I don't think so. Yeah, no. I think that's about it. I just thought of something that I wanted to tell you about with it, and then I immediately forgot it. Oh, weights. So I don't remember what the stock weight was, but we should just be able to look it up. Meteor 75 Pro 04. First and foremost, $199 with the 04 light air unit in there is a really good deal. You're gonna get hammered on Trump tariffs, but you know, thank him for that. It's making all of our lives so much better, I'm told. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm probably just a dumb person. 37.2 grams dry. So let's take a look here at what a lighter frame and a lighter set of motors have done. 37.2, 33.0. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but think of that in percentages. So 33, 4, 5, 6, 7. Forget about the 0.2. So 4 grams difference. So that would be 40, 20. So that's like a I think that's like a 15% weight savings, right? Think about that on like a 5-inch rig, right? 15% of a 15, 30, 60, 90. That's roughly like 100 grams difference on a 5-inch rig. Imagine dropping 100 grams from a 5-inch build. Also, so you would drop 100 grams from a 5-inch build, but then you would go to like a 4.5-inch prop as well. In fairness, the other comparison. Okay, so all of that on 1S. If you've got a whole bunch, and run 1S 450 mAh batteries. No need for the 550 mAh batteries. Yeah, you'll get a little bit more runtime, but it flies so much better on these 450s. Just, you know, change batteries a little bit more often. You'll be fine. This is all on 1S, and this is as good as it's going to get on 1S with these 450 mAh batteries. Really, a setup that's this heavy, you want to do 2S. It's unfair. The advantage of 2S is ridiculous. You get more power, more runtime, and barely any extra weight. Speaking of, this guy with a Lava 450 is 45.5 grams all up weight. So ultimate Meteor 75 O4, 45.5 grams. Kind of sort of ultimate 2S 1.6 inch 04 carrying setup, 50 grams. That's trouble. If you've got, like I've been saying for the last 6 months, if you've got a whole bunch of these 1S 450s and you just want to use them, there is nothing wrong with this. This is super fun. Little over 2-minute runtime, usually. Awesome way to burn through the rest of your 450s. When your 450s get tired, don't replace them. Well, don't replace them with more of these. Replace them with these. Go to 2S. That's your excuse to go to 2S. If you're not willing to sell all of your 1S 450s and 550s, run them into the ground, and then when they're in the ground and they're ready to be replaced, go to 2S. It's just better. It's just better in every way. 5 grams heavier, you cannot tell the difference. It has so much more power, so much better runtime, so much better response time. Like, I can shoot gaps more accurately with this, even though it's 5 grams heavier, because the response time on 2S is so much quicker. So if I have to make a correction, the quad is like on it. Like as soon as I move the sticks, the quad is just there. And like that improvement in response time really does make it easier to shoot tight gaps and fly in small spaces with. You can you're also going to run a frame that has taller ducts, which are going to slow it down a little bit and make it even more accurate. There are other 1S 75mm frames that have the taller ducts, but like if you know, to me this really is like the ultimate version of this, and a part of that is this Air 75 V2 frame. The fact that this duct is razor thin here is one of the things that makes this so fun, because it kind of boogies all around and kind of slides around more, and you don't necessarily notice as much that it doesn't have the raw power that a 2S kind of setup is going to have. So yeah, amazing way to use your 1S 450s. I'm really happy with the way that this thing flies. But you know, these O4 lights are hard to get and they're expensive, and so they're earmarked for setups that are the absolute best of the best, and that means 2S. Like the 2S advantages far outweigh the few extra grams that you kind of add. It's just insane. Speaking of the Betaflight 1102 motors, I have a set on here. I have the 18,000 kV ones on here, and they're just brilliant. This right here, this is the Betaflight 12 amp AIO that you can unfortunately no longer get. O4 light. This is the Happy Model O4 hard mount canopy. So this has never had jello issues. Unfortunately, with the hard mounted camera, you can't use gyro flow. But like I said earlier, I don't think you should use gyro flow on the O4 Lite. O4 Pro, absolutely, but not on the O4 Lite. And then, yeah, Betaflight 1102, 18,000 kV motors, Gemfan 1610 propellers, and this frame is the Mobula 7 V3. And, oh yeah, ORT Micro V, of course. The custom length one that I sell on my Etsy store. And yeah, this setup kind of demolishes this. Way more runtime, 3 to 4 minutes of runtime, way more power, better response time. But it's cheating. 2S is cheating. It's completely unfair to compare a 2S whoop to a 1S whoop. It's just, you know, it's the same thing as in 5-inch builds when we went from 4S to 6S. Like, everybody that was on 4S, well, not everybody, but a lot of people that were on 4S who refused to go to 6S were like, nah, 4S is fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And every single one of them, as soon as they built their own 6S rig, went, oh my god, more power and more runtime. I wish I'd switched sooner. I was one of those people. I couldn't afford to switch. And I also had a ton of 4S KV specific motors. And then as soon as I could afford to switch, and I actually switched, I was one of those many people that were like, shit, I wish I'd done this sooner. But yeah, again, not to take anything away from this. This to me is the ultimate Meteor 75. You're gonna have to do a little bit of work there with that notch filter, but super easy. I showed you where to put it. Type it in there, and you should be good to go. I did a whole live stream about the build of this, where I showed you which different cable I used to go from the AIO to the O4 air unit, O4 Lite VTX, I should say. I did not need to solder. Yeah, plug and play, move some things around, rotate some things a little bit differently, and away you go. Really, really, really fun to fly rig. I'm sad to see this one get pulled apart, but this one's better. I'm so blown away though at how good this got, man. I spent over a year trying to get 1S walk snail setups to fly anywhere near this good. And I got really close, but we just didn't have quite the right motors. These 25,000 kV 1002 motors are just, I mean, all we've ever needed was more kV from 1002s, and finally we have it, and it makes a massive difference. I've completely ignored chat. I apologize, friends. Jamie Fly says, oh hi, anyone here? You Can FPV says, I finished the Nightwing build last night. I have just have to do Betaflight stuff. Very cool. Off Axis says, I got one of those too, pretty stoked on it. Stock setup with O4 light. I believe he's talking about the Mobula, the Meteor 75. Nyafu says, what's a good motor KV and size for 75mm 2S? I'm split between Happy Model 16,000 kV 0802 with a bell swap and 1002 14,000 kV. It depends on the rest of the build. 1002 for a heavier build, 802 for a lighter build. So like an HD build, for example, 1002 hands down. A super lightweight analog build, the 802 will totally work. And for the 802, you can get it all the way up to like 18 or 19,000 kV. So like if you don't want to do that bell swap because it is annoying, tinywhoop.com sells an 802 19,000 kV with a 1.5mm motor shaft. You motor limit it down and you're good to go. But again, that's the 802 is only really going to work on a pretty lightweight build. Ray's said the reason being is that the 802 is a smaller motor and it's going to get hotter. The 1002 is a much wider motor. It's going to stay cooler. Ray's says, good evening. Thanks for doing these late night streams. Always helps me wind down and learn something new. My pleasure, my friend. Thanks for supporting me and allowing me to do it. Nyafu says, I'm going to fly it on 550 mAh 2S if that changes anything. That is a huge battery. So 802 will explode. 1002 absolutely necessary if you're going to carry that heavy of a battery. I don't recommend you go that heavy of a battery, though, to be honest. All you should need is a 300 mAh 2S. At the most, 450. But if you're going to do BT 3.0, these Tiny Whoop 300s are the way to go. If you're going to do XT30, GNB makes a 380 mAh 2S battery. Flywoo puts a different wrapper on that same battery that says 420 mAh. They're the same battery. They weigh the same. They have the same color plugs, same length wires, and you get the exact same performance and runtime out of both of them. So those two batteries are going to be way better, in my opinion, than a 550. 550 is a ton of weight to be carrying around. If that's a Tiny Whoop, you're going to have durability problems. It's going to hit like a ton of bricks when it crashes because of all that battery weight. Off Axis says, what goggles are you using for the O4? I am still on the figure out which goggles thing. The O3s. So the O3s are going to get used for like all my professional work, and so they're just kind of chilling, not getting any hours put on them. I have a set of goggles too, and these I keep wanting to say Vistas, but that's not it. Whatever these are called, it's the goggles. It's the same thing as the goggles too. And yeah, I keep using these just because I keep putting them down over here to my left. But I do need to Integra. These are the goggles Integra. I do need to figure out which, if I want to do goggles Integra or goggles 2. I think I'm going to end up going goggles 2 as my backup set of goggles. But I keep using these Integras, and then at some point I'm hoping that I switch to the goggles 2 and I notice a difference. I like that the goggles 2 don't have that integrated battery, but yeah, I want to get as used to these as I possibly can, so that when I start using the goggles 2, I can hopefully tell a difference and decide, is the battery thing the only reason. It's slightly different field of view between those and the goggles 2, and also those have the fixed lenses, and so yeah, I'm at some point I'll start using the goggles 2 again, and if for some reason I don't like them as much, that made the decision easy for me. And that was all 50 frames a second, by the way. You Can FPV says, weird, I didn't really notice the difference between old and new 1102. You probably don't have these like new 1102s then, because the difference was noticeable as soon as I took off. And yeah, 4,000 RPM different with a prop on in Betaflight, like that's a lot. That's significant. UCanFPV says, I got the O4 PNP, or for the record, or Beta FPV has reviewer units that they send out with hot motors. I doubt that, but that's a thing in the world. You know, like review units get sent out and they magically work better or make more power, or is something in the car world that happens all the time. Reviewers get a car that magically makes like an extra 40 horsepower and it feels awesome, and then the production versions don't feel as good, or they're detuned, right? So that could technically be it, but yeah, this set of 1102s here is hot. They're hot. They're hot motors. I hope all of the new 1102s are like this, because these are these crank. UCanFPV says, got the 04 plug and play and 2024 analog Meteor75 Pro bind and fly. Very cool. It's hard to get through all those letters. Ginger FPVRC says, is the Hummingbird V4 a good 65 millimeter? Absolutely. And are the newbie drone batteries really better than others? I don't necessarily think that they're better. They're just different. The NX69 plug is technically better, but it's not the bottleneck. And so, like, it doesn't necessarily fix anything. There's nothing wrong with it, but like if you have a bunch of BT 2.0 batteries, you should not like go crazy and sell all of them and switch to NX69. If your BT 2.0 batteries are like old and tired, yeah, NX69 is great. The batteries work really well. The connector is awesome. I wish that it had come out back when BT 2.0 came out, so that we could have chosen back then. The problem is BT 2.0 has been out for a couple years, and so there's 1,000 different batteries out, and like most of us have a ton of them, and so that's really hard. But yeah, if you're just getting into whoops, Hummingbird's gonna come with the NX69. You're good. Just stick with that. The Hummingbird's great. It's from Newbie Drone, right? It's not from halfway across the planet for us cheeseburger eaters. And so, yeah, Hummingbird V4 is a great 65 millimeter rig. The canopy that it comes with sucks, so you're going to replace that with a Bri-Brain canopy. I now have the ultra magical, secret, amazing version of the Bri-Brain that B-Bird over on Discord very kindly helped me get dialed in with like the most durable kind of Bri-Brain setup that holds the BI, that has a thicker front foot so that it doesn't interfere with the camera plug. So yeah, these guys are going to be on my Etsy store. The regular one is on my Etsy store. If you get it, it'll be the one with the magical little subtle improvements. And so yeah, if it comes with the... Hold on, let me see. Hummingbird V4. Let me see which camera it comes with. I think it still comes with the big BI camera. I believe it's the Race that comes with the new BI camera that's smaller. Camera. BI camera. Yeah, so this is the big... Yeah, so this is the regular BI camera. And so, yeah, the BI mount on my Etsy store will be the one that you need. It's you should be... I think you can just print this out. Where's the Bri-Brain? Hold on. Okay, so here's the BriBrain. And is there a... There it is, BI. Yeah, all right, so that's the problem. So, unfortunately, the lowest up tilt that you're going to be able to print for yourself is 25 degrees. If you want 15 degrees, I got you covered. But yeah, 25 degrees is okay. It's a little fast. It feels a little fast. I really like 15, but yeah, there you go. Search for BriBrain, BRIBRAIN on Thingiverse. Other than that, yeah, swap the canopy out and away you go. Hummingbird V4 is a great option. The OSD can be a little flickery, can flicker a little bit, but I don't know. I don't even notice it. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be. Matthew Wegner says the camera is a larger percent of the all-up weight on the smaller setup and will affect it more. Larger frame has more inertial budget available. That's a funny way of saying it. Inertial budget. I like that. Yeah, it's funny, man. On a tiny whoop, these little lightweight cameras are actually pretty heavy, right? Like, if you look at like the percentage of the payload that the camera is on one of these things, it's a bigger percentage. Not quite as big as like carrying around a GoPro, but yeah, it does matter. You can tell that with like if you fly a toothpick versus like one of these. You know, this has the camera up front, which doesn't look like it's much, but it is. This is a lot of extra weight up front here in the camera. CiottiFPV says, I saw a few people build some Ascent whoops today. What's that? Pretty awesome for a $35. Oh, right. $35 VTX. I just don't want to buy the goggles. Yeah, the Ascent thing is weird. I don't know. It's seems insane that you have to buy a whole set of goggles for that system, but $35 for a camera and VTX is pretty gnarly. So yeah, I don't know. It's how many fucking goggles do we have to buy is the long and short of it here, right? Like this is insane. This is absolutely insane that they think they can just make us keep buying more and more and more and more and more sets of goggles. Like, it's the most expensive part of FPV. The fact that these manufacturers don't work harder to have more backwards compatibility in the goggles is kind of shitty. In this case, I have a feeling that the only reason the Ascent camera and VTX are so inexpensive is that they're gonna get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars from us on the goggles. And I assume that a lot of people are gonna buy the goggles and like one or two of the camera and VTXs, and then that's it. They'll fly it for a couple months, they'll quit the hobby, right? I assume that that's a part of the marketing with this, which is, for those of us that, you know, stick with it for a while, that's kind of maddening. But I don't know. I really, really, really wish that... look, dude, the Goggles X, it doesn't feel like they did all that well because they didn't really do anything of value that the Avatar goggles didn't do. And so this Ascent shit, to me, would have been a hell of a way to sell some more Goggles X. But, you know, I don't know what they're... Maybe the Goggles X sold fine. Maybe there truly is some total difference in the hardware and there was just no way to do that. I can't imagine that to be true. But, I mean, if you look at DJI, shit, they make us buy a new set of goggles every goddamn time they change anything, right? With the Vistas, we had goggles, and then 03, now we've got the goggles Integra and the goggles 2. 04, now we've got goggles 3. Yes, there's been a bunch of backwards compatibility there, which is amazing. it's insane to me that the Goggles 3 won't work with the Vista, and you have to have Goggles 2 or Goggles Integra to work with the fucking Vistas. But, you know, so my assumption is that Caddx ripped off O4 with the Ascent in some way. And, you know, so like that whole Goggles 3 not all the way backwards compatible with Vistas thing, that would make an awful lot of sense, right? With the way the Ascent is kind of looking. I'm not saying, but just saying. ZipFPV says, I have a Mobile 8 with a bad VTX. Also have an Avatar Mini. What's the easiest way to put it on the Mobile? I can't figure out how to stack the boards. Well, what's an Avatar Mini? Avatar Mini. What's that? Oh, that's the name for the... I just call it Walk Snail Light. So I'm assuming that you have a Walk Snail... I'm hoping that you have a Walk Snail Light like this. If it's not a Walk Snail Light, then you're shit out of luck. If you have... I've never heard it called Mini, but it does say Mini here. If it's not this one, if it's the VTX that's got like the heat sinks on the top and the bottom, you're not going to be able to do it. But if it's this one that's just like a PCB looking like it's about to break, which they will. I've done quite a few builds with the Walk Snail Light. I can't just tell you how to do it. It's like a 45-minute long conversation. So you're going to go to my channel here, and you're going to go to this little magnifying glass, and you click the magnifying glass, and then it'll give you this search field so you can search the whole channel. You're going to search for Walk Snail Light, L-I-T-E. And... so this is probably going to be a good one. Happy Model Mobile 7 1S ELRS Walk Snail build begins. Let's take a quick look at this one. Shut up! No! Come on! Alright, so. Alright, we got handy dandy little timestamps here, thanks to Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper. And so desoldering the ELRS antenna. Oh my god. I got hung up desoldering that antenna, it looks like. Alright, so we didn't do any actual stacking up in this one. So where's the next one? That was, oh boy, that was 2 years ago. Jesus. Oh, no, I got you. Here, hold on. Live. I just did this. So I just did this when I built this Meteor 75 Pro O4. It's not going to be the exact same. All the same concepts still apply. And so here it is. Meteor 75 Pro. This is the one that you want. This is the live stream that you want. I'm putting the link in the chat. But this is the name of the live stream. Meteor 75 Pro O4 full build. And so there's going to be a chunk in here where I talk about how to stack these boards up. I talk about the screws that you need, which are M1.2 by 14, which I sell in my Etsy store. And yeah, I talk about how there are 8 different orientations of the top board, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, flip it upside down, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I talk about how, you know, you got to look at the gap between the two boards, and you got to pick the orientation where there'll be like one component that's really tall somewhere on the board. You have to find a way to put that tall component into a gap where there's not a tall component on the other board. Sometimes that requires you to flip the board upside down. If you flip the board upside down, make sure that it's not a nightmare, like if there's a UFL plug for your antenna, you don't want that UFL plug in between the two boards, because then if you need to change your antenna, you got to take the whole goddamn thing apart. Stuff like that. I go through all of that in here. And again, it's not the exact right board, but all the concepts are exactly the same. I also talk in here about the thickness of the grommets. There are grommets that are the same thickness top and bottom. There are grommets that are extra long on one side, and so you can run that grommet with the extra long rubber in between if you need more of a gap in between there. Yeah, that'll work for you. But in fairness, if you search for Walk Snail Light on my channel, there are multiple live streams where I've done the exact same build that you have. Here's the other thing, though. Your VTX, you mentioned that you have a Mobile 8 with a bad VTX. You're going to want to try to figure out a way to turn off that VTX. Like, maybe it burned out in a way that it is basically turned off, but maybe it's still pulling power, or maybe it's still outputting but like a lower milliwatt. You can't have that. And so whatever the AIO is, it's probably an X12. You got to figure out if there's a way to straight up turn the VTX off in the X12. A lot of times there'll be two pads next to each other with a solder bridge going between them. And so you'll need to go in there and break that solder bridge to turn the VTX off. So yeah, a couple things going on, but that's what you need to do. That should get you started. Striker tagged me and said, what would you recommend for a 5-inch frame under like $70? Probably the Source 1V a million, whatever version they're at. That's probably the only one that's going to be under $70. Everything's so expensive nowadays. And I want an opinion from a guy who's in the US. Yeah, I don't think you're going to find a frame under $70 that's not the Source 1. But the Source 1 is a good frame. Watch Wonderland TV. Make sure you put an @ in front of CiottiFPV. I almost didn't see this. Says, what are your 3 favorite colors? Black, purple, and red, I guess. I mean, my logo is red and white. Purple was in the old school logo. And I say black because I owned a couple of black cars in a row. I still own a black car. But yeah, I guess purple and red. Purple, red, white, maybe. I've been Stockholm syndromed into liking the color black from my Mustang Cobra and from the Miata. Because black paint is a train wreck to try to keep clean and keep scratch free. And so I spent so much time learning how to detail and then detailing those 2 cars that I've just been beaten into liking the color black. But I don't know. It's not really a color, is it? It's the absence of color. Or in additive color theory, it's all colors. Think of like if you're mixing a bunch of paints together, you know, to get black, you mix all of your paints together. Although that might give you like a really dark brown, I'm not sure. I've never mixed paints together. Nyafi says, what's the most efficient 1002 2S? The most efficient is always going to be the lowest KV. Off axis with a Instagram link to Ginger FPV. Oh, you know, I saw this. I saw this the other day. How cool does that look with all this stuff chromed out? You can't fly it because whatever this chrome is will just flake off the first time you crash it. But good Lord, is that hot looking, isn't it? He even did like a little bit of pink. I just noticed he did like a little bit of pink on the side of the camera PCB. This is one of the best looking tiny whoops I've ever seen. Really, really cool. For the record, I don't follow anybody. I keep my Instagram feed as clean as I possibly can. It's nothing against anyone. Streger says, I love my European buddies, but their pricing is so out of whack. Thanks to Mr. What? Oh. Yeah. So I'm cooked if I want to build a 5-inch, $20 minimum for motors. Yeah, and I mean, you don't want $20 motors. You want $25 motors that'll have titanium motor shafts. You'll save money on titanium motor shaft motors because they are so much more durable. They are orders of magnitude more durable. Although, speaking of 5-inch motors, what you actually want for 5-inch motors are the new T motors. I keep forgetting to talk about this. T-Motor just came out with a 2306 that has a 5mm motor shaft, which is a really big deal. Wow. T-Motor has gone all lifter on us. What's the deal here? Where's all the normal FPV shit? What the hell? What? Oh, I'll be damned. Okay. So I assumed that T-Motor changed over to T-Hobby to get around, and maybe this is true. It seemed like they did that to get past some tariffs or bans or whatever, but in actuality, what it looks like is they're using T-Motor for their giant shit, and now they're using T-Hobby for their FPV stuff. Here we go. Here's the degenerate stuff over here. So it is. Oh, Christ. I want to say it's the Pacer, but I have a hard time with their naming conventions. Really? You don't have, like, your brand new motor on a banner here? It might be this. It might be this Pacer V2, but I'm not totally sure. Hold on. Man, come on. I feel like this is maybe the old one. All right, let's see. M5, M3. No, this is the old one. God damn it. So what are they? They have the Pacer, and then they have, what's the other one? The Velox. Hold on. Let me just go to their Instagram. T-Hobby. Here we go. Oh, it's a different... Oh, they changed the name. They're calling it the Bando. T-Hobby P22.6-7. Bando motor. 5mm inner shaft. Look at the big hole in the bearing there. Yeah, this is what you want. There, a Pacer V4. There it is. Pacer V4 Bando. 22.607. I hope they come out with a 2306 version, because that's a little bit too much stator volume for me. But to be honest, I would still run it just to get that 5mm motor shaft. Yeah, this is the motor that you want. Yeah, it's all over the place now. But yeah, this is an odd... It's not an odd motor size. This is a motor size for people that like a ton of power and or really heavy quads. Really heavy 5-inch rigs. But that 5mm motor shaft is going to be so much more durable. Yeah, that is certainly the motor that you want. There you go. That's exciting stuff, man. That's been a long time coming. The fact that it's taken... there was one other motor that Kebab reviewed years ago that used that 5mm shaft. I think it might have been a Brother Hobby. But yeah, the fact that we're finally getting it more than just that one is great. Nardo Polo's in the house. He says, any chance you'll test the Lava 2 480 mAh or 580 mAh? I definitely won't test the 580 mAh because they're just too heavy. The 480 mAh, maybe. I don't really have... well, no, I guess I have one 1S 1.6-inch prop still together. It depends. I'm still waiting on Betaflight to get back to me whether or not I can review some of those batteries. If they send them, I'll certainly review them. If I have to buy them, I probably won't buy the 480s. I'll buy the 320s. But yeah, I would love for them to send me the 480s. That would be great. Matthew Wegner says, I do mountain unicycling, and I think a lot about what inertia I have available to spend and from where. My Discord profile photo is me riding. That's very cool. I never thought about that. How big of a role inertia plays in unicycling. It makes sense, though. It makes total sense. Kevin Sumner says, it's a play for vendor lock-in in reference to goggles. If you can choose your goggles separate from the VTX, then it's less expensive to switch systems. Yeah, compare flexibility of the HD0 goggles versus DJI. Yeah, the goggle situation is really something else in FPV. Jesus. You Can FPV says, 100% with you on the goggles. The goggles are actually not that expensive. I think below $200, but still, I want a VRX for my goggles. Yeah, man. Moss1 is in the house. Striker also says, have you tried O4? YouTube did the thing. Now I'm trying to find where the hell I was. Jesus Christ. YouTube, is this real life? There we go. Have you tried O4 Pro on 5-inch yet? No, nor will I. It doesn't make any sense on a 5-inch rig. Also, what is peak analog versus O3 penetration like? No competition. Single way, one direction links, HD0 analog, can't come anywhere near the any of the HD systems. That two-way link of the HD systems, the goggles talk to the quad talks to the goggles. That just, other than in like the extreme cases, right? The extreme cases being, I want to go 15 miles in one direction. If you want to go 15 miles in one direction, it's analog. That's the only way to do HD0, analog or HD0. Mainly it's going to be analog though. But for kind of like everything else, the HD systems are just, yeah, they're just unbelievable. The way that they reject multipathing, the way that they can dynamically kind of like move their power up and down, they're just, yeah, there's not much of a comparison. But you can make analog work. You know, we all flew analog for many, many, many years. And then when digital came out, we were able to go a little bit farther. But I mean, it's not nearly as much. The analog versus digital comparison is not nearly as much about that as it is about being able to see where you're going. Once the signal has bounced a couple times, like when you go behind the building that's a half a mile out, or when you go 4, 5, or 6 walls deep, with analog, like there will be some signal, but it is garbled to hell, and you have no idea where you're just operating on instinct and or like your mental map of the spot. Whereas with digital, you can still see exactly where you're going. In fairness, all the way up until the point where the digital system just blacks out and doesn't come back. And so the analog system will get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. and like it might not go quite as far as the digital system, but it'll get so bad that you can't see where you're going, and so you'll turn around or just punch out and it'll come right back. So there are still benefits to that one-way, the HD0, the analog one-way kind of system. Watch Wonderland says, "Good to know. I'll have something. I'll have something for you with those colors." Oh, very cool. What is it? Tell me. It doesn't flake. Oh, Watch Wonderland, is that you on Instagram? Well, shit, if you're here, where's that tab at? There it is. I think it sounds like Ginger FPV is Watch Wonderland TV. And he says it doesn't flake. How the hell does it not flake? It has to be a coating, right? How does that not flake? It must be extremely flexible. Extremely, extremely, extremely flexible. What else you got? Look, water slide stickers. Where's God damn it. Who's what's his name that's been busting my balls on the water slide stickers? Look at this. Look at this. Yo. Respect, man. Respect. Look at this wacky antenna. What the hell antenna is that? Maple Omni? Look at that thing. Look at the speckles. That's cool, man. I love it. Very cool. Is this the where'd you get the white? Just out of curiosity, where'd you get the white wire? Look at that. That's very cool. I never thought about doing this. I'm so mad at myself that I never thought about doing that. That's such a great idea. Although I usually run the Mobula 6 canopy, so you can't see the side of the Bing Bong there. That's really cool. Oh, it's color shift. I was gonna say, how the hell did you just put color there? But it's color shift. Oh, you're using Plastidip, aren't you? That's why it doesn't crack. I didn't know there was chrome Plastidip though. I think this is Plastidip. Plastidip is like a rubber, ends up being like a rubber material. Ooh, the crown frame with something. Faux weathering? Nice. Looking like copper that's weathered. That's really slick. More color shift. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Plastidip. Because Plastidip has these color shifts, and I can kind of see like a texture in there. How much weight does this add to the frame? Plastidip is like a spray-on rubber, and it's I would think it's a little heavy maybe. This is look at that, yo, holy shit, that's a lot of work. Took 7 days in the paint lab. Oh my god. Custom durability blend. Every drip placed with intention. Dude, very cool. Damn. Yo. That's wild. LA Lakers colors? Okay. Oh, dude. We talked about this on a live stream a while ago. This is yeah, this like flocked. It looks like it's flocked. Hold on. No clear coat, just pure light eating black. Yeah, this is super cool looking. We talked on this. We talked about this like a couple months ago. It's so cool looking. Dude, awesome. Really cool work. Nice. Yeah, man, these are fantastic. Oh, the little drips in there, that's slick. Awesome, man. Good stuff. Very, very cool. Keep doing that. That's awesome. We need more of that, man. You know, like these fucking things sit on the shelf for like 23 and a half hours a day, and then maybe we fly them for half an hour. You know, they might as well look cool. Oh my God, Watch Wonderland says, I make my own paints. Wow. What? Tell us more. Oh, he says he already did. I develop my own paints and prep on frames that creates a durable paint. Plus, I seal them. Obviously, crashing on concrete or asphalt will scuff pretty easily over time, but it's solid. Very cool. Striker says, I never know about the whole titanium motor shaft thing, and also this T-motor thing is interesting. Yeah, titanium motor shaft motors are $7 to $10 more expensive. So like a steel motor shaft motor will be like $15 to $20. A titanium motor shaft motor will be like $25 to $30, $22 to $30. So like let's say you're spending an extra $10 on the titanium motor shaft motor. The motor shaft is typically the thing that fails first or most often. And the titanium shafts are so much stronger than the steel shafts that those motors will last at least twice as long. And so that extra $10 is well worth it, right? You're only paying like an extra like 50%. Like you're paying 50% more money for the motor, but you're getting 100% more use out of it. And so, and you save a bunch of time and you get to fly more, right? You're repairing 50% as often. And so, yeah, titanium motor shaft motors are always the way to go. I tried really hard. You know, I mean, I try for everything to be as budget as possible in FPV. I've been doing that for literally 10 years. I got started into FPV when I was unemployed, and I picked it up as like the cheapest possible hobby I could. That would still give me a pretty solid adrenaline dump when I was moving away from motorsport, autocross and track days and instructing and all that jazz. And yeah, the every single time I would go to a titanium shaft motor, I would just immediately notice like these just last so much longer. And I mean, it makes sense. It's just a much more durable material. And when you crash inverted and smack the motor bell against the ground, that puts the most stress on the motor and it dumps all that energy into the motor bell, right? It's the same shit we deal with on the tiny whoop motors. It's the same shit we deal with on the 3-inch motors. And so, yeah, the thickness of the motor, like if you're ever looking at two different motors and one of those motors has a thicker motor shaft down below the bell, always go with that motor. Or if you ever have an option between a steel and a titanium motor shaft, always go titanium. The titanium motor shaft is also lighter, and that's rotational weight, which makes a difference. So they'll perform better as well. Watch Wonderland says, adds on average 0.4 extra grams. All my builds are below stock weights. Very cool. 0.4 ain't bad. It's not nothing, but it's not bad. Striker also says 22.6.7 is insane, but it's perfect for me considering 2207 come down spicy. That's why I run 1500 mAh batteries. Oh my god, T-motor is 36 whole grams. Needs to shave some weight. Yeah, it won't be able to. That is the problem with the bigger motor shaft, is it's gonna be heavier. The motor shaft goes all the way up through the stator. So you make that wider, and you've added a bunch more there. You know, the bearings, there's just a top bearing and a bottom bearing, and then just air in between. So with a thick motor shaft, you know, it's going to be heavy. But, I mean, 36 grams, most 2207s are 34, 35, 36 grams. So that's what a 2207 typically weighs. You know, one of the reasons I run 2306s is that they're a lot lighter. Watch Wonderland says this is fun watching you try to figure it out. And he says it's not Plasti Dip. Very cool. Damn, that's slick, dude. Very, very cool. Good stuff. All right, people. It is 11:57. We talked about this. Coming up is going to be a bunch of flight footage from this guy, which is now on 2S. 100% more 2S on the Baby Turtle V7. It's awesome on 2S. These 1002 14,000s are really good. I had some weird shit going on in the tune that once I got figured out, this thing is flying a lot better. The main thing was that this has an X12 in it. The X12 on 1S, you got to run your idle really high. And when I moved it to 2S, I didn't change that motor idle, and it was way too high. I've cut the dynamic idle in half. It was 200, and now it's 100. And that really cleaned up the way that this thing flies on these 1002 14,000. So I got to fly, I think, 2, maybe 3 batteries on this today before life started kicking my ass. I need to fly a bunch more on it to get used to these motors, to get a good headspace on these motors. And then I'm going to move this to the Happy Model 1103. So these are 1002 14,000s. Next up is the 1103 11,000 kV motors. I think those motors are going to be a better bet for this, but I want to give these 1002s a shot because it's really light in this current configuration. I feel like somebody asked me what this thing weighs at some point here. I've got like all the TPU on it, but the sub 250G TPU prints are really small and really lightweight, so I'm actually probably going to keep them. 37 grams. That's pretty heavy. Especially when you compare that to like a full plastic framed whoop that's only 35 grams, right? Like for no prop guards versus prop guards, for this to be heavier than this, that's kind of insane. But carbon fiber is heavy. Plastic, molded plastic can be pretty light. It kind of doesn't matter that this thing is this heavy because it makes plenty of power. Now that it's on 2S, power is no problem at all. It's just a matter of finding like sort of the perfect motor for this. This was also really good on 1S. I think because of these motors, right? I'd use these magical 1102 22,000s that Betaflight just sent me in this Meteor75 Pro O4. And this thing was awesome on these motors. So yeah, if you can get your hands on these magical new, I mean, are these like, these look just like every other Betaflight 1102 22,000 that I've ever gotten. Is there some different, does it say like V3 on it somewhere? It does not. I don't know, man. I don't know how or why this makes more power than all the other 1102s I've ever had, but it does. So it's just to give you the full kind of picture of the Betaflight 1102s. The old school 1102. Oh, you bastards, you won't even let me look. Oh, here we go. So this is like, I guess this is considered like the V1 1102. This is the old school one, all black. And then they went to this V2 design, and they offer it in 2 different colors, black and red, or silver and blue. I've always bought it in this black and red. I've bought it in 22,000, I've bought them in 18,000, I've bought them in 14,000. They make these chrome and blue ones in all of those same KVs. Well, apparently they used to, but now it looks like they only make them in 22,000. But, and yeah, you can just select your color. This is the first set of them, maybe, that I've had in this chrome and blue. So maybe that's it. Maybe all of the chrome and blue ones are magically more powerful. I really doubt that. I have a feeling that they changed something and they just are not saying anything about it. But these look identical to these pictures. I can't see anything on these that looks any different from the red and black ones or any of the other ones that I've ever had. So I'm admittedly a little bit confused here, but 2.79. Well, that's weird. 2.79 versus 2.85. That's probably different KVs. The higher KV is this is probably the lower KV. This is probably the higher KV, but regardless, yeah, I don't know. There you have it, friends. Thanks for hanging out. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com, click some buttons, help me keep doing this. It's been rough this year, so tell your friends, clip your favorite part of this, send it to your buddy, post it in your local FPV group. Let's get more people in here learning, testing more stuff, figuring out what flies the best, so we can continue this awesome journey that we've been on to get stuff that absolutely rips and allows us to have more fun together. Cool. Be good, friends. I will see you on Friday at 7 o'clock. Here's a little bit more of the last flight of the ultimate Meteor 75 O4. No longer Meteor 75 Pro 04. Actually, no. Here's some soothing. The outro song is soothing, so here's some soothing flight footage of it at this cool little lake spot. Be good, friends. I'll see you Friday. Have an awesome rest of your week.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah. Sighties on sticks, Teddy's on paws, side by side legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen over couch scale terrain, backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz fuel fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Yo, Saudi behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in. Teddy, yeah. Let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind.